vulnerability. We're going to finish up our ability series tonight with our third installment of the ability series with vulnerability, and probably one of the more difficult topics for most of us to talk about. Luckily, tonight we have an expert in the field of vulnerability and a man who absolutely understands the craft and the definition of vulnerability in Mr. Panchella. Joe, you and I struggle here. We talked about it before we came on. You said this is where we're going to have to try to meet in the middle, right? I struggle with being vulnerable because you simply open yourself up to you open your weaknesses up and you show the world where you struggle and what you need to improve upon, and vice versa. You do a phenomenal job of using your vulnerability as a strength somehow, some way, magically, mythically, legendarily, whatever it is. Seem to find a way to make vulnerability something really powerful that people can't resist but buy into. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor to you.
And I think it's just a different way of looking at things, or how we operate. You have embodied a leadership role, something that I admire more than you'll ever know. And I'm still continuing to grow as a leader, but where I've been able to connect with people and students is by just letting my guard down and being an open book. And it's helped with my own growth as well. Again, having a wife that's in the mental health profession, vulnerability is everything. So I get a second education at home, and it's something we constantly talk about. But I went from hiding my emotions, keeping them inside, never sharing anything with the world, basically through high school, just, putting on an act, or just putting my head down, or pretending I'm miserable, or making it all about me, but never realizing what I was doing. And all I was doing was suppressing emotion that actually became part of my identity. Once I started accepting my emotions, whether it be anger, fear, happiness, negativity, positivity, whatever that may be, when I started just feeling what I feel, my mom, and it's a yoga phrase, but notice what you notice, feel what you feel. You don't have to be embarrassed by your emotions. Emotions are part of growth. Emotions are part of life, and vulnerability gets a negative connotation. People look at it like, oh man, he's vulnerable. Like, I got him on his heels. Sure, you could use that in terms of sport or this or that, where you found an in, but at the same time, vulnerability is power. Vulnerability is you getting down to the black and white of what made you, and you're allowing people to see that, but also staring them in the face and saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing that. I'm okay with you knowing that I'm vulnerable right now, right? To feel is to be vulnerable. Anything you feel makes you vulnerable, whether that be good or bad. So I think that for it to continue to get a negative sense is taking away from the power that it does encompass, that your vulnerability can actually help connect with other people. And I think that's where I've been successful once I started accepting that. And I think each year that I've been at West Deptford, I've been more comfortable with being myself. And all of a sudden I'm realizing that in high school, you don't get a ton of opportunity to be vulnerable because you're in a place where everything is judged, or everything is critiqued, or everything is put on social media. So you have to put your guard up. To me, if you're not allowing yourself to be even a little bit vulnerable, you're not showing who you really are as a person. And I know that may seem like that's extreme or this or that, but to me, feeling all emotions and riding the roller coaster of emotions, it is how you start to establish yourself. I'm not saying let those get out of control, but learning to use all of those as a positive can show you what vulnerability can bring.
So what does vulnerable look like as a high school student or student athlete?
I think for a lot of them, it's still hidden. It's still buried inside. I think a lot of our students, and it's all walks of life, male, female, black, white, doesn't matter. You're afraid to share your emotions. You're afraid to share how you feel because you're worried about where that's going to get to, rather than me saying this could actually save my life or could actually make me feel better and feel more comfortable accepting that I'm not wrong in feeling this way. I had just never met anyone who had felt the same way. And I think relationships at the high school level stay so on the surface that you never dive into what it really means to feel or care or any of those things. And it fits into what I've said before of the I don't care mentality, or it doesn't matter, or it's not that big a deal. That's your fear of being vulnerable.
So maybe I'm a high school student and I go out on a weekend and I'm around a group of people doing things that I know are not right or are illegal, and somebody says, you need to do this, or you need to try this, or you need to drink this. And I'm saying yes, because I don't want to be vulnerable enough to open myself up and say, no, I don't drink. No, I don't do drugs. No, I don't participate in these kinds of things, because I don't want people to look at me as not cool, as soft, as unworthy of being at this party. And if I say no to this, then I leave myself open. I leave myself vulnerable to people at that party who I respect making fun of me or thinking less of me. And I don't want to do that to myself. So I'm just going to say, yes, I'll take that drink. I'll do those drugs. I'll participate in this, even though I know it's wrong, because I don't want to seem vulnerable or leave myself open. It's the perfect example. The perfect example. When you look at the word vulnerability at its root and at its definition, you're letting your guard down. And when you let your guard down, you're open to criticism. Open to criticism. And even in that example right there, you're absolutely opening yourself up to criticism. Whereas if I just say yes, I don't have to deal with it. But now I put myself in a worse situation. I know Miss Schitzler used this example in class and used it as an assignment, but there's a woman named Brené Brown. She's a leading psychologist. She does TED Talks, and she has one of the most viewed TED Talks ever, and it's called The Power of Vulnerability. And she talks about those types of things, that through her learning about emotion and not caring so much about the criticism, that she was empowered, that she had a skill set that people didn't have. And I think that's where I've found success, is that emotions were what used to hold me back. But now accepting that I can wear my emotions on my sleeve within, a certain limit without letting any of them be greater than the rest, I've started to find myself in terms of, I want to be able to relate to everybody. Everyone's situation is different. You don't get to choose your parents. You don't get to choose your guardian. You're just trying to take what you can and keep growing from that. And a lot of times at home, you're not learning about those things. You're not learning about, how do I express how I'm feeling right now? Instead, you just suppress it, and it continues to build and build and build until you finally have one of those situations where you break down, But if we were vulnerable more often, maybe that release would help us see eye to eye. And I think right now, the world is vulnerable. I can think of a great example right now. So, and this is how, I'm very particular about who I surround myself with, because I don't ever want to surround myself with people who I don't believe have my best interests or care about me. And I think that was something I did when I was in high school. I had a lot of friends, but the people I really trusted, I brought inside, and there are other people I kept at arm's length. But I think it was our second year together, maybe our third winter, and you were struggling. Like, we came from a very busy fall right into a winter that was jam-packed. I was still learning how to schedule. You were still learning how to be an athletic trainer. So we're kind of learning together. We had a lot of night events, and we were both a little bit uptight. And it was just you and I. and I was at my desk, and you came into the office, and we couldn't really see each other, but you're coming in, you think using the microwave as we're getting ready for either a wrestling match or a basketball game or whatever. And you just came in and you were hot, man. You were just in a bad place. This is ridiculous, man. I guess, and I think I said something, yo, man, what's up? And you're like, nothing, man. Just keep scheduling eight night games in a row. No big deal, man. I don't really need a life. I don't need to go home to be with my fiance at the time. I don't need to. Hey, I'm just here. This is what I'll do for the rest of my life. Is just show up here from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every night, man. Don't care about me. Don't worry about it. And that was a moment where, like you're saying, your emotions you were vulnerable. And you weren't afraid to come in there being vulnerable. And you made it clear how you felt emotionally. And my response in an attempt to not be vulnerable was to get up and walk around the court and say, oh, yeah? This is what you want to do? You want to go toe-to-toe right now? All right, man, tell me how you feel. This is how you and you let me have it, man. You really told me how you felt. I told you how I felt, and I think for about 7 or 8 minutes, man, we were almost nose to nose screaming at each other. We wanted the same outcome, but the bottom line was you trusted me enough even then early on to make yourself vulnerable by coming in there and just letting your emotions fly. I did the same in retaliation. If that happened again today, I don't know that it would be any different. But I know at the end of it, I took a lot of stock in what you said and how you felt and learned a great lesson that night of having respect for your role and your job and your personal life and your family and making sure that we did what was best for you when we scheduled as well as what was best for everybody. And, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being vulnerable there. You very easily could have sucked it up and been like, I don't want to look like I'm soft or I can't handle it to Morrell because I don't want Morrell to think I'm less than. You came in with just letting it loose, and I appreciated that in return. And I think that if you're a person out there and you're trying to figure out who your friends are, make yourself vulnerable one time. And the people that are still there when you're done and the dust settles are the people that you need to keep with you.
You've shown your truest self to, and I think it's scary for a lot of people, but I think you're absolutely right. And that example, Mr. Morrell, is something I often think about because it showed, how powerful that vulnerability can be, but it also made me take a step back and say, yes, Joe, you were successful in sharing that, but there's a better way of going about that. Had I felt more comfortable early on addressing that, we probably could have had an aha moment rather than, something fiery. But at the same time, we walked away with a greater appreciation for each other. And it also was one of the times that I was like, oh, he is that guy. He's got that side too. It doesn't mean you have to show it all the time. It doesn't mean you have to be like Joe or wear it on your sleeve or this or that. But just know it's there. Know that those emotions fuel you, and you're not wrong to feel those emotions. And the reason I wanted vulnerability to be the third segment of this is because once you learn self-accountability, you then can hold others accountable. Once you've grasped that, you then become reliable and dependable. But when you become reliable, dependable, and accountable, you know what? You just made yourself very vulnerable. You made yourself very, very vulnerable. And rather than running away from that, you're letting the world know, go ahead. Judge me. Let me know. But know that I'm going to keep coming, and I'm going to do it with pride. I'm going to do it with a sense of you can't knock me down because I'm showing my truest self. I'm wearing everything I have right here in front of you. And that to me, like I get excited right now just thinking about it because it is scary what you can do when you start accepting your mental and emotional state. When you start understanding those states, you become your complete self.
Yeah.
The physical is easy. The physical is easy, but staring down those thoughts and accepting those emotions, especially when times are hard, you're showing that you're human. And no one's written the book on how to be human. Every single person is different. So if we just showed a little bit of vulnerability, and that's across everyone, from the highest level to the lowest, you get a greater appreciation for everything. And I'm now more than ever, you really can appreciate how vulnerable people are, But if you're there for them, what you can accomplish together is scary.
Man, that's outstanding job by you, man. You crushed it right there. And you're one of the best there is in being vulnerable, and this ability series was really your brainchild. You did an unbelievable job with it, and we hope that the people out there listening to this, if you don't walk away from something from this series, and I don't know what else we could do for you, because that was outstanding stuff, Joe. Great job by you. And I know it's not getting any easier, but we're here for you. We're in this together, as we always say. And Mr. Panchella, just great job by you tonight. And I think this ability series has been some of the best podcasts we've had so far.
And again, not to be redundant, but we've said it a lot, but know we're here for you. All right. And if you feel vulnerable, emotional, scared, uncomfortable, write down your thoughts. Be one with those thoughts. Accept those thoughts right now and reach out to somebody. There are people that want to help you. All right. And I'm not trying to say it like this or that, but we are here and we want to answer those things. We want to hear from you and we want to feel with you. I think that's most important. So you keep hanging in there and know that we're with you, and we're going to get through this thing one day at a time. And we so appreciate you guys listening and buying in, and we'll be back soon. Take care.